Hey guys, my name is Nina Means, Director for Austin Community College Fashion Incubator, and we're back here with Krystal DeLisi of the Edit Advisory.
Hello.
Hi, good to
Hi,
see you again.
you too.
This week we're going to really be talking about some of those unique customer groups that you work with. Last time we talked about, corporate and mid-sized brands and some emerging labels. But one of the groups that you and I had spoken about, kind of this influencer space, was really interesting. And I'd love to get a chance to unpack that a little bit with you. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of the influencer space in terms of what you do and kind of what opportunities you're seeing there?
What I've been learning, and it's something new-ish to me as well. But after working with a few influencers so far, it's really the best way I can describe it of what influencers are doing, besides just selling product, of being salesmen, or they're really showing people how to wear it. So I have a good friend, and she's not wouldn't call herself someone who is like fashionable, right? But she follows an influencer that's her body type. She likes the things that she wears, and the influencer comes on and shows her this specific outfit, and she goes, it runs a little big or it runs a little small, so size up, size down. So that right there is like super interesting to me, because doesn't everybody want that now that we're like shopping online? And you're like, well, does it really run big? Does it really run small? Am I really a medium? Am I really a large? There's like all of these like questions that you don't know when you're like purchasing something. So what I kind of see the significance of these influencers are kind of taking the questions out of those questions that you have when you're buying online. And I think people also get influenced by what they're wearing, and there's just like a lot of different there's a lot of different aspects in the things that they offer to people, and it's only growing. So it's taking the trend and the forecasting part of the business and trying to think of like, how do we like help these influencers, how do we like influence these influencers and inspire them with trends or things that we're seeing in the market? How do we make them more unique? Um, Getting them as a trend setter on the cycle of a trend, instead of, mid or, at the bottom of the trend cycle. So
Absolutely. That's
yeah.
great. That's awesome. I feel like so kind of one of the things that I remember in our conversation, a lot of that early trend cycle piece, before we were talking about, just understanding how and when to apply, that trend forecast, knowing what works for your brand, what doesn't work for your brand. But then you get this really unique opportunity with influencers to kind of to shape some of the thought leading that they get to do.
Mhm.
Whenever I remember you mentioned, someone that you'd been working with locally, kind of what are some of the wins that are in this area that you see are already starting to take shape, with presenting this kind of information early on, or really, in this format?
Well, I see the opportunity for the influencers to be the trendsetters. And there's a lot of shopping apps, influencer shopping apps out there, and they're getting their weekly emails of, this company is going to, give you commission if you sell this product and that. And so it's really a question of like, who is influencing who at that point. And um, so we want the influencer to be the one influencing,
Mm-hmm.
not the shopping app saying, well, you get this if you push this product. So we want to like build this authenticity to these the influencers who are playing a huge role in the fashion industry right now. Like you can't deny that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you're right. There's like definitely a level of integrity that's kind of needed. And I think that, there have been some changes, right? You have to do like hashtag ad or something like this so people kind of know that this is
Mhm.
kind of being driven, or that there's like a link, provided, whenever something's being pushed by for commissions. But you're right. There's this need to like just be honest. Let's be honest, about, where is this trend really coming from? And is it because there's like piles of, inventory somewhere, or is it because, it's really
Right.
thought leading? But I love that you're taking this on, even if it was not, the intentional first segment. We had the designers,
Yeah,
but now it's like, okay, well, there's another audience that seems to really need you.
there is. And then there's so those are also the influencers that that have like a following and they want to produce their own lines now, which, growing up, being a designer and having all of that like knowledge about your customer and what they've already previously bought from you and just like all of that data, like you can like build the perfect collection or brand for your audience because you have so much data. Like somebody who's just starting out doesn't have the data that they have.
Wow.
So that part is like really cool. But not every influencer wants to have their own collection. Um,
But
and
they
then
would be in a good position to do it. I mean, to your point,
yeah,
you're right. Like no, like most designers have no idea what people want to buy from them,
yeah.
but they've tested every single style possible of
And
someone else's.
they're so connected with their followers, right? They're commenting with them. They're really like getting to know their customers on a whole different level than, a corporate brand or, they that can do. And
Right.
then there's the trend, the other thing that I was like super interested in is like, okay, so I have like these trend forecasting books but how in the designers can like decipher it and all of that, but then how does this work for this market? How does this work for the influencer, the creator, to create the content, to create their um what are they going to talk about? How do they become the trendsetter? So I partnered with an influencer blogger in Austin, and we really came up with like a cool idea for how to help them be inspired and have a different avenue for inspiration.
Now, this is something I'm really curious about. What did you guys come up with?
So we're gonna do it's the first ever really that I know of influencer that's specific to trend from runway from street. And so taking the inspiration and the trend and the forecasting, and then how do they apply it in real life? So my partner Ellen of A Fascinating Life, everyone should look her up, is like our actual first case study.
That's
So
fantastic.
she's like living the product right now. So
That's awesome.
I'm taking these trend concepts that I've come up with, and like an example of one, which we'll see, is call to nature. And it's all about like being sustainable, but then also a new take on the evolving floral trend, right? So it's taking these ideas, but then making them unique to her. Like, how is she putting these together? Like, you
That's
can
awesome.
show somebody the same thing, and the individuality of it will look completely different, right? Of like how they're
Hmm.
going to interpret it. So it's been really fun to have her live our product. So it'll be a monthly subscription base, where we're just kind of feeding inspiration. You'll get 4 major reports um, before the from based off of the runway and the things that are happening, and then monthly, just like content ideas. So
That's great. That's wonderful. I would love to I love that this is kind of feeding into like a direct product opportunity too, because we were talking about that kind of in the very, very first
mm,
conversation. If you guys didn't see the other conversations, go back and watch the first two. Um, Make sure you catch Krystal at the beginning, because we're talking a lot about just kind of starting as an entrepreneur, building out the edit advisory, and then developing the various product lines, including the membership. So we're going to talk a bit more about this membership here in just a second, because it's so important for brands, and we're seeing influencers, to partake in this. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back next week and talk a bit more about the memberships.